Welcome to Knowledge Hub. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In 2025, President Trump's America First doctrine has shattered decades of global trade norms, sending shockwaves through the international economic system. The world is witnessing a dramatic shift, as the United States abandons its traditional role as a champion of free trade and multilateral cooperation. Negotiation has been replaced by demands, and partnership by pressure. The art of compromise has given way to ultimatums, with American officials insisting on terms that leave little room for discussion. High tariffs now target not just rivals, but close allies like Japan, South Korea, and the EU. Even long-standing friends find themselves on the receiving end of sweeping new trade barriers. These nations are treated less as partners, more as economic subordinates, forced to comply with Washington's will. The atmosphere at international summits extend ten dem mabesondinsteam babentwan arniberpum. Frustration and distrust replacing the old spirit of cooperation. The strategy, steep one-sided tariffs and demands for massive investments into the U.S. economy, has become the new normal. Trade agreements are rewritten to favor American interests above all else. Allies must now fund the very economy, penalizing their own industries. A move many call economic coercion. Factories overseas face layoffs and closures, while American plants ramp up production. The goal is clear: re-industrialize America at the direct expense of its allies. Jobs and investments flow back to the U.S., while partner nations struggle to adapt. The price of access to the U.S. market is to subsidize American growth. Foreign companies must invest heavily in American factories or risk losing their most lucrative market. Critics call it a protection racket, forcing allies into unequal treaties with no right to retaliate. Protests erupt in capitals around the world as leaders face mounting pressure at home. This has fundamentally altered America's relationships worldwide. Old alliances are strained, and new partnerships begin to form, in response to Washington's hardline stance. The global impact is profound, with uncertainty and resentment spreading among long-standing partners. Markets react with volatility, and business leaders scramble to adjust to the new reality. Allies face a stark choice: accept dependency on the U.S. or seek new alliances. Some look to emerging powers, hoping to build alternative economic blocs. From Tokyo to Brussels, governments are rethinking their future in a world where the rules are being rewritten, and the balance of power is shifting in unpredictable ways. Japan, once a pillar of U.S. strategy in Asia, has long been seen as America's most reliable partner in the region. For decades, the alliance brought stability and prosperity, with Japan's export-driven economy thriving on access to U.S. markets and security guarantees. But now, Japan faces the brunt of Trump's aggressive trade doctrine, which has upended the old rules of engagement and put Tokyo in a difficult position. A punishing 15% tariff on all Japanese goods sold in the U.S. has hit its export-driven economy hard, sending shockwaves through industries that once relied on American consumers. Unable to retaliate with similar tariffs, Japan's industries are left at a severe disadvantage, forced to absorb losses and cut costs just to survive. The deal goes even further. Japan is required to invest a staggering $550 billion into the U.S. by 2029, with little say over how or where that money is spent. This unprecedented demand has left many Japanese leaders feeling powerless. American officials dominate the investment committee, making key decisions, while Japanese representatives watch from the sidelines, unable to influence the process. Despite the massive investment, Japan receives only 10% of the returns, a fraction of what it puts in, fueling resentment and frustration among Japanese investors. If Japan resists or questions the terms, even harsher tariffs can be imposed at the U.S. president's discretion, leaving Tokyo with little room to maneuver. Many in Japan see this as tribute, not partnership, a payment extracted to maintain favor with a dominant power, rather than a fair exchange between equals. The arrangement has sparked outrage and a sense of helplessness in Japan's government and business circles, with leaders openly questioning the value of the alliance. The Financial Times and Japanese media call it outright coercion, warning that Japan's sovereignty and economic future are at stake. The economic model that built modern Japan, rooted in exports, innovation, and global cooperation, is now under threat from its closest ally, casting a shadow over the nation's future. The alliance's high cost is now a subject of fierce national debate, as Japan grapples with the consequences of a partnership that once promised security, but now demands sacrifice. Washington's pressure has triggered a political crisis in Tokyo. Prime Minister Ishiba resigned amid public outrage, leaving Japan's leadership in turmoil. The ruling coalition collapsed and the LDP's grip on power is now uncertain. New LDP President Sane Takaichi faces a divided parliament and emboldened opposition. Economically, Japan's negotiators scramble for concessions, especially for the vital auto industry, but have little leverage. Political chaos and economic anxiety have paralyzed the government, shaking the foundations of Japan's post-war identity. Japan now faces one of its greatest challenges since World War II, with no clear path forward. As US pressure mounts, the BRICS bloc, now expanded to include new members, emerges as a powerful alternative. BRICS Plus is building a multipolar world, challenging US dominance and offering nations a way out from under Washington's thumb. The group is developing new financial systems, promoting trade in national currencies, and bypassing the US dollar. This de-dollarization directly threatens American global power. Despite Trump's warnings, BRICS nations push ahead, declaring, "The world has changed. We don't want an emperor." With over half the world's population and nearly half of global GDP, BRICS Plus is now a major force. It offers countries a platform to coordinate policies and resist US pressure. For Japan, feeling isolated and coerced, the appeal of this alternative is growing. The existence of BRICS Plus presents a strategic option that's becoming harder to ignore. Under unprecedented US pressure, Japan is quietly exploring options beyond its traditional alliance. The coercive trade deal has forced policymakers to consider a future less dependent on Washington. India's pivot to BRICS after facing US tariffs is a powerful example for Japan. While Japan hasn't formally moved toward BRICS, the logic is compelling: access to vast markets without arbitrary US penalties. Deeper engagement with BRICS Plus could give Japan the leverage it currently lacks. The internal debate is intensifying, with new voices challenging the old consensus. Many argue that blind loyalty to the US is no longer sustainable. Instead, Japan should pursue a flexible, multidirectional foreign policy, engaging all major powers. The ground is shifting beneath the US-Japan alliance. The Trump administration's aggressive tariffs are widening the rift with traditional allies, creating a climate of uncertainty and tension on the global stage. New 50% tariffs on copper and threats against semiconductors and pharmaceuticals have rattled global markets, causing significant disruptions in supply chains and sparking fears of a prolonged trade war. The EU and South Korea face similar demands: tariffs, forced investments, and even diplomatic incidents. These measures are straining long-standing alliances and creating new economic challenges. Trump has also threatened a 10% tariff on all BRICS nations, framing the bloc as anti-American. This move is seen as an attempt to isolate these countries economically. This rhetoric turns economic competition into a geopolitical showdown, forcing countries to choose sides in a rapidly polarizing world. For Japan, with deep ties to China and BRICS members, the pressure is immense. Navigating these complex relationships is becoming increasingly difficult. Severing these ties would hurt its economy, yet loyalty to the US now comes at a steep cost, putting Japan in a precarious position. Ironically, each new US penalty drives more countries toward BRICS Plus as they seek stability and new economic partnerships. India's pivot is a clear example, and Japan is watching closely. The shifting alliances are reshaping the global economic landscape. The side offering stability and mutual respect is looking increasingly attractive, as nations seek to secure their economic futures in an uncertain world. Japan stands at a historic crossroads. The America First doctrine has turned its closest ally into its greatest economic challenge. Japan can capitulate to US demands, sacrificing economic sovereignty for security, or it can pivot toward a multipolar world, diversifying partnerships with BRICS Plus and other powers. This path offers new markets and autonomy, but risks US retaliation. Japan's decision will shape not only its own future, but the global order itself. If Japan hedges toward BRICS, it could accelerate the shift away from US dominance. The world is watching. Will Japan accept dependency or help define a new international system? The choice is stark, and the consequences will echo for decades. The future of the global order may hinge on what Tokyo decides next.